So there's this recent change in Duolingo, my favorite mobile game at the time, that I don't really like, and it inspired me to create a parody game inspired by this. So basically they changed the way they limit the free users on the app. Before you had hearts, so you have like 5 tries to make mistakes during the whole day. So if you run out of those 5 tries, you can't keep playing until the next day. But they changed this to an energy metric. Each time you do an exercise, it runs out of energy. This has made it a bit difficult to learn in an effective way. It punishes you if you like doing a lot of exercises. It doesn't matter if you do them right or wrong. So I've been spending less and less time on Duolingo, which kind of sucks because I used to like it a lot. But maybe it's kind of my fault for not having money to pay for it. Anyway, I think making a video game about this could be like a way to channel my anger and at least practice game development. I've gave myself 32 hours to do this. I've decided to budget this time into different sections. So the plan was 5 hours for art, then 10 hours for programming, 10 hours for polishing and testing, 5 hours for sound, and the final 2 hours just if anything slips out. So the main idea was to make an annoying version of Duolingo that purposely sucks as a learning app, but maybe it's fun to play. So this is how I got started. The plan originally was to make a game about learning Morse code. I've been wanting to learn this for quite a while now, but I haven't really had the time, so maybe this was an excuse to do it. I saw that you can upload a video game to itch.io that is basically just a website, so I first thought that maybe I just make a website that looks like Duolingo kinda and make a game out of that. I started working on this and something told me that it wasn't gonna look like I wanted to when I publish it. So I just quickly made this test game and uploaded it to itch.io. Yeah, as you can see, it doesn't look at all like I expected it to look like. So it was time for another approach. I'm making it look like this mistake didn't cost me a lot of time, but it actually did. It actually took me 3 hours of my time to do this. So there it goes, the final 2 hours of extra time and 1 art hour. But luckily I found out right at this moment and not at the middle of making the actual game. That could have cost me way more time. Now I decided to change the plans a bit, and I decided to make the game in Godot. I've had experience with this game engine a lot, so it won't be a hassle. I created the whole UI in Godot with this default sprite that comes with every new Godot project, and I started building the whole app. At this time I decided to maybe look up the way I was going to do this Morse code tutorial. This is when I got a bit worried that maybe Morse code isn't the right thing for this. Morse code is not the most interesting thing to learn, to be honest, and I really don't know how can I make that fun. Maybe it's a skill issue on my part, but I think it was time to maybe come up with something new. This is when I came up with the idea to make this like a villain how-to. So maybe instead of learning a language, you learn how to be a villain. So this concept was a bit more fun because I can make stuff like maybe the different villains like vampires and aliens and stuff can teach you about the world of being a villain. And I think I can make up some questions around that, and that'll be way more easy to get creative around that than Morse code. So now it's time to make the art. I just took a screenshot of what the Godot UI looked like and I sent it to my iPad so I can just draw some art around it. That way I can make the sprites and everything else so it can fit in correctly to what I have in the game engine. So after creating the monsters and everything else, like the UI elements, it was time to export to my PC. The thing is that I don't think this is the correct workflow because it takes too much time for me. You're gonna see what I mean. So I obviously have to export every single sprite to my PC. Thing is that the way Procreate exports it, it has this huge transparent thing around it and I need to cut it so it fits in the game properly. The way I do this is by just going into Photoshop and basically manually copying and pasting the correct sprite into a separate document and saving it like that. And this takes a lot of time. Like just doing this sprites alone took me 40 minutes. I think it doesn't really help out either that my PC is a bit slow. Like so slow that I couldn't really record the whole process of me building the UI properly because it was lagging so much. But anyway, I think like in the future I'm gonna make maybe a small project that makes this workflow a bit faster. I don't know how, but I think I need like some sort of automation that crops out every single sprite I export, so it doesn't take that much time. Anyway, plugging in the sprites was pretty easy. I had to make a few changes obviously because it didn't look like I wanted to look, and I'm still not very happy with it, but I'm not really ever really that happy with the art I make, but it's good enough as is. Now it was time to do something that I didn't really budget for, and this was making the questions. So I'm not really good at writing stuff, and this was gonna take a long time. I had to make basically two types of questions, multiple choice questions and true or false questions. The true or false questions are gonna be basically evil or not evil. So you get an object and you have to click if that is evil or not evil. To do this, I created this JSON file that basically has all of the questions I could need, and the game basically randomly selects a few of them each round. Making this work took quite a while because originally I was doing a weird method that, to be honest, is the correct way to do this in Godot, using the resource files. I didn't really know how to make this work, and to be honest, I just understand how JSON files work, so I prefer doing that. And that took, again, some time from the actual programming part. So I ended up making like 5 pages of questions in Google Docs, and I just copy and pasted it to the game engine, and that's how I feed the game questions. This took quite a while, creating the bunch of questions, and I'm not really happy with a lot of these questions. Some of them are a bit confusing, some of them are like a bit cheesy in my opinion, but I really wanted to have a lot of questions so the player doesn't get bored or doesn't think this is repetitive. This is quite the issue with games that rely a lot on prompts, like let's say trivia games. So if you like a trivia game a lot, you can basically run out of those questions and you have to basically find another game to play because you basically memorized the whole game. And that gives the game a very short lifespan. Anyway, 5 pages for now was enough, so it's time to move on to... So for this game originally I added 2 challenges. The first challenge is a time limit, so you have a time limit for you to answer the question. And the other limit is a heart system, basically the classic lives system you see in a lot of games. So if you make 3 mistakes, you're out, and it's over, and you have to play again, another round. This was pretty good at the beginning, but I thought it needed something else. So I added this ad mechanic. So you know how when you get those ads on mobile games, you can't really see where the X is to close the ad? So this mini game inside this game is basically find the correct X before the time runs out. I think that was kind of funny, and it didn't really take that much time. I just randomized a lot of X's at the back of this UI element and then added the correct X somewhere inside that same box. And this minigame was gonna happen between each round, so maybe that gives the player a little bit of variance in their gameplay. I also wanted a way to maybe reward the player in some way, so I added this random hearts that basically can add a life to the player if they click it at the correct time. And I also added some fake hearts to make it a bit more challenging. So when creating the main logo of the game, I decided to make a flamingo, because pink is like the color of the channel, and they are a bird, like the Duolingo bird, that it's an owl, so I thought that fit in quite well. But after testing it, it looked way off, like the pink doesn't really match with the reds, and red is, especially like blood red, is like the color of evil, and I just decided to go all in with the dark red in the whole game. So I just redrew the whole character in red, and I think it looks way better. At this part of the project, I realized I was running out of time, and I didn't really have any sounds for this. Looking for free sounds has been a bit annoying for me in the past, so I decided to just record them myself. It luckily didn't take a lot of time. I just made a few noises with my mouth and some stuff I found on my desk. And I think it turned out really good, to be honest. I was at a part now that I needed to test this game, so I sent it over to some people to see what they think, and I got a lot of feedback. So the first piece of feedback was that I didn't really give the player that much time to solve each exercise, so they didn't even have time to read the sentence correctly. I also had a few problems with some of the questions. They didn't really make sense, and some had the wrong answer in it. And the other one was that they really didn't understand the point system. To be honest, I didn't really have time to fix the 3 of these issues, so I just had to stick with the first 2. I used the final few hours to just polish the whole game, so adding animations and stuff, so this feels less like a PowerPoint presentation and more like a game. This is the whole game feel part that every game needs to have, and I think that it was a mistake on my part to wait this long to actually add it to the game. But now at this point it really looked like it was polished enough and complete enough to publish, so right at the last few minutes I just used them up to create a few more questions and wait till the time is officially up. To be honest, I don't really dislike Duolingo. It's been pretty useful for me to learn some of the music stuff they have, and it's okay. For me, it's more like a mobile game than an actual learning device, but if it helps anyone really learn a language, well, that's good for them. Creating a game in such a short time has its limits, and there's a lot of problems that go with it, like I made a lot of mistakes and bad architecture choices while making this game. I don't think I can really change a lot of this without dedicating a lot of time. And if I really wanted to make a game like this that is scalable and actually high quality, I think I would like to start from the beginning again. On the channeling my frustration part of this, I don't really know if it's that healthy to dedicate 32 hours to basically make fun of another product. At the end, I don't really think I criticized Duolingo that much, and that was kind of the point of it. I think anyone that plays this game from the outside can clearly see it's like a parody of Duolingo, but I don't know if the message really goes through that the game developer, me, was frustrated with some specific parts of the game. Sorry, the language learning app. Well, at least I created a game out of this. I learned a lot. I learned which technologies to use. I practiced drawing a lot. I created my first sound effects, and that was pretty neat. The game is in my itch.io, so you can play around with it, and yeah, this was a pretty cool experiment, and I hope to see you soon, maybe making fun of another thing. We'll see. Bye.